That's what the then Welsh Education Minister told Welsh universities in 2010 when he wanted them to merge. Well, Leighton Andrews is now a professor at Cardiff University Business School and is one of the 1,800 staff who've been asked to consider voluntary redundancy. Cardiff University is looking to cut 40 out of the 200 staff from his department, and I think it's fair to say that he's angry. He's with us in the studio now. Welcome, Leighton.
Oh, good morning, Vaughan. Let me just say, it's 1,800 academics who've been told their jobs are at risk of redundancy. We haven't all been offered. We can certainly approach the question of voluntary redundancy, but we were rather brutally told our jobs were at risk of redundancy.
But isn't that just doing what you told them to do, adapt or die?
Well, 15 years ago, the agenda was rather different. We had rather more universities, and I was determined that we would bring the long-standing debate that there had been about higher education reconfiguration to an end, and we did. We achieved a number of key mergers. There were then, of course, other developments in higher education policy, the new fees regime and so on, which universities had to adjust to. The situation today is rather different. We have fewer universities in Wales, but there are clearly significant challenges facing universities at the present time.
We'll look at those challenges in a minute, but one thing that shocked me on this story, we had Jeremy Miles, the health secretary, sitting exactly where you're sitting now a couple of weeks ago. And I asked him, when did you hear that the School of Nursing in Cardiff University might be closing? He said, about a week before. That can't be right, can it? When the health service is in crisis, we need nurses. And Cardiff University just says we're closing the School of Nursing. It seems to me that a system that was designed to defend academic independence is actually being used to defend capricious decisions by vice-chancellors.
Well, I agree completely with you on that, Vaughan, and I think it's absolutely shocking that the health secretary was told so late in the day about what was happening to nursing. And I think what that tells us is that Cardiff University's leadership, and I use that collectively, is now no longer regards Cardiff University as part of a Welsh higher education system. And I think this is a moment of fundamental significance for Welsh government and indeed Welsh democracy. If the Welsh government wants in the future to shape its higher education system, to move it away from the kind of market-based system that we have at the present time, as well as looking at questions of higher education finance, it is also going to need to look at university governance, both at a local level and at a national or Wales level as well. And that may mean legislative changes.
But people wouldn't want politicians dictating what's taught in our universities. That's the difficulty, isn't it? I mean, as a principle, that's important. But on the other hand, Welsh universities, one would have thought, should be broadly aligned with the interests or the policies of the government and the interests of the country.
Well, I used the phrase when I was the education minister 15 years ago that I thought we would have to be more dirigiste, in other words, more directive in our approach to the higher education sector. And I remain actually of that view today. The reality is that the higher education funding body, higher and further education funding body now, MEDA, is going to look at the distribution of subjects across Wales. They have a role in this, and that in a sense, if you like, is the buffer between the government and the universities in determining the distribution of subjects. But I don't think it's unreasonable for an elected government to have a view about what is taught across the whole sector.
Because he who pays the piper calls the tune, surely. Well, and Welsh government spends over £1 billion on higher education, some of it in Wales, some of it goes across the border. Doesn't that give them a seat at the table?
Well, it certainly gives them a seat at the table. And I think this is part of the debate I think that has to be had in the future. Where is that £1 billion spent? The reality, of course, is that as a minister, you have more leverage when you are distributing rather more public money, even via a higher education funding council, as I was, than you have in a system that is largely now funded by students paying fees. So the kind of market conditions underpinning the higher education system have changed in 15 years, and we do need to bear that in mind. But I do think it's a moment of choice for the Welsh Government.
Is it a moment of choice for our society as well? Because we know that in England and Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland are different. We have this tradition of going away to go to college. That's not the case in continental Europe. It's not the case in Scotland. It's not the case in Northern Ireland. And sure, there are specialist courses that you may want to go to, but this idea that you have to go somewhere else, isn't it time to encourage Welsh students to stay in Wales?
Well, I think that's a perfectly reasonable debate. You're absolutely right in what you say about Northern Ireland and Scotland, where the tradition has been, on the whole, to stay in local institutions. They have a different kind of fee structure, by the way, in both those countries, of course. But there's no reason why the Welsh Government couldn't look in the future to rethink the distribution of funds. At the moment, it has the Seren scheme, which encourages people to go to universities across the border. Then you have the funding through Coleg Cymraeg Cenedlaethol, which is designed to keep more Welsh-speaking students in Wales and keep Welsh-speaking courses.
You set up Seren, wasn't that
Seren happened under my watch, but I had this vision of it being a kind of pilot pump priming program. I didn't expect it to be still in operation. I think it had actually started technically.
Because when the higher education minister was here about a month ago, she was really pumped up about Seren.
Well, I think what has to happen in a policy sense is that I think there needs to be a review of higher education finance and of student finance. I think that needs to report after the next Senate elections in order to take it out of the political to and fro. And I think there needs to be some cooperation between the Welsh Government and the opposition parties in creating such a review and getting it underway very soon.
Yeah, but that's after the next Senate elections. Meanwhile, it seems to me that Cardiff University is sort of moving fast and breaking things. This has been a remarkably short process.
Oh, well, there's no question that that what they call a transformation program is actually a 2-year slash and burn program, and that's the situation that we're currently in. That's why people are so angry. That's why I'm sure people will vote for strike and other industrial action in due course. I have voted for the strike and for other industrial action. I encourage others to do so. The reality is this process could have started earlier. The Vice-Chancellor has admitted that. Savings could have been accumulated earlier. That would have defrayed some of the difficulties. It would have mitigated the situation. The university has cash and investments. There are arguments about how much of that is available, but people talk about between 100 and 180 million being available. That could spread the pain over a longer period, and it could, I think, protect the future of the university.
You know what they say, though, don't you? They always say you can only spend your reserves once. So, that's always what's said. And there are other universities in Wales that have very, very small reserves. Isn't that just postponing the issue?
Well, no, because the minute you start to take action, this is why I think it's unfortunate that the Vice-Chancellor and the university leadership chose to delay the process of making change. You start to accumulate savings. You don't have to act in such a short time frame. Even now, I don't believe they have to act in this kind of 2-year time frame. I think they've got longer. What they have done is, frankly, destroy trust and goodwill within the university, and morale at the moment is through the floor. And these are the people you need, the academics here, to boost the university in the future, to do the groundbreaking research that is needed and the innovative work. But at the moment, everybody's focus is on their own jobs.
Is it toxic?
Is the culture toxic?
Yeah.
I think it feels very toxic. I think there is a climate of fear in the university about speaking out. Maybe I'm in a more privileged position than most, having been involved in this area of policy for some time. I'm not afraid to speak out, but I think there are people who are very afraid to speak out at the moment.
Leighton Andrews, diolch yn fawr. Thank you very much for coming in this morning. Well, the Boundary Commission for Wales will be announcing its final decisions on Senedd electoral boundaries later this week. That means that we'll have the final details of the new electoral map of Wales to coincide with the new makeup of the Senedd, increasing its number of MSs from 60